Welcome back everyone. Today we're going to be going over while loops. Now, most of the lesson is going to be available to you in the written segment of the lecture. So for exactly how while loops work, I recommend you pause now and go ahead and read the rest of the lecture first. So now that you've finished reading the lesson, I want to show you exactly how while loops work using a memory table, almost like a step-by-step, line-by-line example. So let's go over to our code. So in our code, you can see that I have the example that we use in the lesson. This is the print numbers example. And if I run this code again, you'll notice that it prints out the numbers 1 through 5. So what exactly is going on? So let's get back to our memory table and walk through. So as always, our code is going to start off in the main function. So the function name is main. The type of the function is going to be an int. The variable name doesn't exist. The value is so far a question mark, and the size is a 4 because it's an int. Now, on the very next line, on line 11, I'm going to enter a new scope. And then on line 12, I'm going to go into a new function. So the new function I'm going into is called print numbers. Now, the type of print numbers is void. It doesn't have a variable name. Because it's a void function, it doesn't have a value. And additionally, it doesn't have a size because it's a void function. And this takes me over to line 3. So the first thing I do on line 3 is I enter a new scope on line 3 due to that variable. And then I'm going to go ahead and make a new variable. So I'm going to make a variable of type int named number. And the value of this variable will be 1 and the size will be a 4 because it is an int. Line 5 gives me a while loop. So it says while number is less than or equal to 5, and indeed the value of number, which is 1, is actually less than 5. Enter this scope. So I'm going to enter a new scope on line number 5. And in this scope, what I'm going to do is I'm going to print out number. So number is the value of 1. So I'm printing out 1 onto my console and printing out a new line. And then I'm going to do number plus plus. Number plus plus is the same as me updating the value of number by adding 1 to it. So that gives me a 2. And then I'm going to exit the scope. And now I'm going to go back to my while statement again. Now because this is a while statement, I'm going to keep on repeating this condition until my terminal condition, or the thing inside the parentheses, ends up being false. So when I do this, number less than or equal to 5? Number is 2, and 2 is definitely less than or equal to 5. So I'm going to make another colon and enter the loop, scope, while scope again. This time I'm going to print out number, and now number is 2. Hence where I'm getting this from. And I'm going to increment number, and then on line 7 I'm going to do number plus plus. So that means update this to number plus plus, which gives me a 3. And then I'm going to exit the scope again, and then go back up to my while statement. My while statement again is asking me is number less than or equal to 5. 3 is indeed less than or equal to 5. And then I'm going to go ahead and enter the while scope one more time. I'm going to print out the value of number, and number is 3, so I'm going to print out 3 followed by a new line. And then I'm going to do number plus plus. So when I do number plus plus, number goes up by 3, number goes up by 1. And then I exit the scope again due to line 8. And then I go back. And this time I'm asking, is while less than or equal to 5? While is indeed less than or equal to 5, so I'm going to enter the scope one more time. And this time I'll print out the number 4 due to line 6. Line 7 updates our memory table by saying increase the value of number by 1. So that gives me a 5 for the value of number. And then I'll go ahead and say, and then I'll go ahead and exit scope one more time. And when we exit scope, we're going to go back up to our while statement. Is number less than or equal to 5? 5 is less than or equal to 5. So let's go ahead and enter the scope again. So when we enter this while scope over here, we're going to go ahead and print out the number 5. We're going to increase number by plus 1 again, which gives me a 6 for the value of number. And then I'm going to exit the while scope. Now, when I go all the way back up to the while statement, I'll ask myself, is number less than or equal to 5? 6 is no longer less than or equal to 5. So instead, I'm going to go to the next line after the while statement. And it turns out the next line after the while statement is end scope. So I'm going to cross out everything that I haven't already crossed out from the bottom up, all the way up until my scope function ends. Now, because I'm back at where my function is, and this is the last thing left in my function, I'm also going to exit out of this function by default, which will take me back up to the main function. So I just finished line 12 because when I finished the print number function, I went back to where I was called from, which was line 12. And then I'm going to go to the next line. The next line finishes the main function for me. And in this code, I have actually happened to return the value of a question mark out of my main code, which you might have noticed is a bad thing. So I can quickly fix this by doing a return 0, and I no longer have this issue, and now my code would have actually updated the value of this to be a 0 before it terminated. So my main code will have terminated successfully. So hopefully this example was sufficient for you to understand how to do a memory table for a while loop, and this will help you in the exercises below. Alright, until next time, see you again. Bye-bye.